just wasn't a good relationship for me. It didn't have so much to do with him as it had to do with me at the time. I had to learn to care about myself a little bit more and put up certain boundaries of what I would accept and wouldn't accept.
Jennifer Lopez has taken the witness stand in the high-profile trial against Sean Diddy Combs, marking a dramatic new chapter in the case. Her testimony comes on the heels of recently revealed nightclub footage that appears to contradict her previous statements and suggest a more active role in the events under scrutiny. This unexpected development has intensified public and legal scrutiny, raising critical questions about Lopez's involvement in the alleged criminal activities linked to Combs's empire. As the trial unfolds, her testimony could prove pivotal in shaping the outcome of this landmark case. Revisiting the past, Lopez's previous statements and public image. Jennifer Lopez's relationship with Sean Combs, better known as Diddy, has long been a subject of fascination and speculation in the public eye. From their high-profile romance in the late 1990s to their eventual breakup, the couple's history has been dissected by tabloids, fans, and the media for decades. Lopez, a global superstar in her own right, often navigated the spotlight carefully, balancing her personal privacy with the public's insatiable appetite for gossip. Years ago, when asked about her breakup with Combs, Lopez delivered a cryptic but memorable line. "It ended with a bang." At the time, many assumed this was a metaphorical statement, an indication of a dramatic or explosive split, perhaps fueled by emotional turmoil or irreconcilable differences. It was a tantalizing soundbite that satisfied the media's thirst without revealing any concrete details. However, with the recent resurgence of allegations surrounding Combs's alleged criminal activities, including violent incidents involving firearms, Lopez's words now carry a chilling literal significance. The phrase "ended with a bang" appears to be a veiled allusion to gun violence and chaos, rather than merely a breakup's emotional intensity. This new context invites scrutiny over whether Lopez's past statements were intentionally vague, designed to protect herself, or to distance from the darker realities concealed beneath the glamour. Allegations of active participation. A closer look at the evidence. More than mere rumors, a growing body of evidence suggests that Jennifer Lopez's role was not limited to that of a bystander or victim. Leaked audio recordings, witness statements, and circumstantial evidence have surfaced, implicating her in activities directly connected to Combs's alleged criminal operations. One of the most startling claims is that Lopez was involved in transporting firearms, specifically carrying a gun into nightclubs where illicit activities and violent confrontations occurred. According to eyewitnesses, on the night of a critical shooting incident linked to Natalia, a survivor and key witness in the case, Lopez was seen carrying a concealed firearm. It is alleged that she handed the weapon to Combs at a crucial moment, implicating her in the orchestration of violence and intimidation tactics designed to protect the empire. Further accounts indicate that after the shooting, Lopez disposed of the weapon by tossing it out of the car window during a police chase, an act that, if proven true, directly links her to the criminal cover-up. Such actions go beyond mere association. They suggest a level of complicity and active involvement that could expose her to severe legal consequences. The role of Natalia and other survivors. Voices from the shadows. While Lopez's involvement is under scrutiny, it is important not to overlook the courageous voices of survivors like Natalia, who have been instrumental in bringing these dark truths to light. Natalia's survival of the 1999 nightclub shooting, allegedly connected to Combs's circle, has been a cornerstone of the investigation and trial. Unlike many witnesses who have remained silent, often due to fear, intimidation, or alleged bribery, Natalia has remained steadfast, determined to seek justice despite personal risk and public scrutiny. Her testimony paints a vivid and harrowing picture of a world where violence was normalized, threats were routine, and silence was bought or enforced. She describes an environment steeped in fear, where women and men alike were coerced into complicity through violence or psychological manipulation. Firearms were ubiquitous, security was brutal, and any perceived disloyalty was met with harsh retaliation. Natalia's persistence has provided critical insight into the coercive tactics allegedly employed by Combs and his associates to maintain control and silence dissent. Her story is a reminder of the real human cost behind the sensational headlines, the trauma, the survival, and the ongoing fight for accountability. Natalia's courage in stepping forward contrasts starkly with Lopez's silence, highlighting the divergent ways individuals navigate the fallout from such toxic power dynamics. Cassie Ventura's courageous testimony. The heart of the case. Among all the witnesses, Cassie Ventura, Combs's former partner and one of the central figures in the trial, has provided the most detailed and emotionally charged testimony. Cassie's statements have reshaped the case by exposing the psychological and physical abuse that permeated her relationship with Combs. Despite being 8 months pregnant at the time of her testimony, Cassie bravely recounted episodes of coercion, violence, and forced participation in disturbing scenarios. She described events that resembled orchestrated performances, where she and other women were coerced into playing roles dictated by Combs, complete with costumes, cameras, and scripted dialogues. This disturbing setup highlighted a systematic abuse of power and control that extended beyond typical relationship dynamics into the realm of exploitation and trafficking. Cassie acknowledged moments where she appeared complicit, but contextualized these actions within the broader framework of fear, survival, and manipulation. Her testimony underscores the complexity of abuse, how victims can be trapped into enforcing their own oppression to protect themselves or others. The business of control, understanding the RICO charges. At the heart of the prosecution's strategy is the invocation of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, a powerful federal statute designed to dismantle organized crime networks operating under legitimate business fronts. Sean Combs's sprawling empire, spanning music production, fashion, liquor brands, and media ventures, is alleged to have been more than just a collection of successful enterprises. Prosecutors argue that this empire was a facade for a sophisticated criminal organization engaged in illegal activities such as drug trafficking, violent intimidation, coercion, and money laundering. Unlike traditional criminal cases that focus on isolated incidents, RICO prosecutions target the pattern of criminal conduct embedded within the business structure. This means that even if only certain arms of Combs's operations were involved in illegal acts, the entire enterprise could be held accountable. Legal experts emphasize that the government must demonstrate how Combs used his legitimate businesses as cover to facilitate and conceal criminal activities. The involvement of key associates, and potentially Lopez herself, complicates the case and broadens its implications. The psychological and emotional toll. Inside the lives of those involved. Behind the sensational headlines and courtroom confrontations lies a profound and often overlooked dimension: the psychological and emotional devastation experienced by those caught in the crossfire. Victims like Cassie Ventura have offered rare and powerful insights into the tangled web of love, fear, and loyalty that defines relationships marked by power imbalances and abuse. Cassie's testimony reveals the intricacies of control that extend far beyond the physical. Her narrative brings to light the subtle yet insidious forms of bondage inflicted through legal and financial means. One stark example is her 10-album contract with Bad Boy Records, Sean Combs's label, a deal that should have launched a flourishing career but resulted in only one album release. This contract, far from being an opportunity, operated more like a chain that bound her creatively, financially, and personally. This kind of control highlights how abuse can manifest invisibly, hidden behind the guise of business arrangements and legal obligations. Victims often find themselves ensnared in contracts that restrict their freedom under the pretense of professional advancement. These emotional chains are often more difficult to break than physical restraints, complicating efforts to escape abusive situations and access support. Such psychological manipulation also fuels the sense of loyalty victims may feel towards their abusers, a dynamic rooted in fear and the hope for eventual safety or change. Cassie's experience exemplifies this tragic complexity, reminding us that abuse is rarely black and white, but a spectrum of coercion, entrapment, and survival. The challenge of leaving. Why victims stay? One of the most perplexing and frequently misunderstood aspects of abuse cases is why victims often remain in or return to dangerous relationships. Cassie Ventura's testimony helps illuminate this painful reality, revealing the powerful role that fear plays in keeping victims trapped. She recounted numerous episodes where attempts to leave were met with brutal retaliation, both physical and psychological. Threats to her safety and to her family's well-being created a pervasive atmosphere of terror, reinforced by Combs's access to weapons, influence, and wealth. This climate of intimidation was not only about control, but also about ensuring silence. Cassie's story dispels common misconceptions that victims choose to stay or simply lack willpower to leave. Instead, it underscores the calculated mechanisms abusers use to enforce compliance. The stakes are often life-threatening, especially when the abuser is deeply connected to powerful networks capable of inflicting harm beyond the immediate relationship. Her testimony offers critical context for understanding survivor behavior and highlights the importance of nuanced support systems that recognize the complex interplay of emotional, psychological, and physical factors in abusive dynamics. Public perception and industry. Fallout: a culture in crisis. The unfolding trial has ignited widespread discussion across the music industry and beyond, forcing a reckoning with long-standing issues of power, complicity, and accountability. The idea that a titan like Sean Combs could allegedly maintain a criminal enterprise while cultivating a celebrated public persona shakes the foundations of celebrity culture. For Jennifer Lopez, the trial's revelations have especially profound implications. As one of the world's most admired entertainers, her alleged involvement risks irreparably damaging a carefully constructed public image. The possibility that she may have been more deeply involved in the illicit aspects of Combs's empire challenges the simplistic narratives of victimhood or innocence that once shielded her. Public opinion remains sharply divided. Some fans and commentators express shock and disappointment, struggling to reconcile the glamorous star they admire with the allegations that now envelop her. Others argue that Lopez's predicament is emblematic of a broader pattern of systemic complicity and silence among those orbiting powerful figures in entertainment. This polarization reflects a cultural crisis, one that compels the industry and society at large to confront uncomfortable truths about how power operates behind the scenes, how victims are often silenced, and how the mechanisms of fame can mask darker realities. Looking forward, what the trial means for justice and accountability. As the trial progresses, Jennifer Lopez's potential testimony looms as a pivotal moment. Her statements could either corroborate or challenge the prosecution's narrative, potentially altering the course of the case. Regardless of the outcome, the trial itself symbolizes a crucial juncture in the broader struggle against corruption, abuse, and impunity among the elite. This case transcends individual culpability. It tests the justice system's capacity to dismantle entrenched power structures that often evade accountability. The RICO framework, in particular, offers a unique lens through which to assess how legitimate enterprises can be weaponized for criminal ends. The trial also highlights the need for society to better support victims willing to come forward, often at great personal cost. It underscores the importance of dismantling cultures of silence and complicity, especially within industries where fame and money can insulate wrongdoing. The ongoing Diddy RICO trial. What's at stake? Sean Diddy Combs' trial, spanning 6 to 8 months, has captivated global attention, not only because of his celebrity status, but due to the monumental implications it carries. This is not a simple case of isolated criminal acts, but a sweeping investigation into an empire alleged to be built on and sustained by illegal activities. Combs' business empire is vast and multifaceted. Bad Boy Records alone launched some of the biggest names in hip-hop and R&B. Beyond music, his ventures encompass fashion lines, liquor brands, and media productions, collectively valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. The government does not dispute the existence or success of these enterprises. The core question is the nature of the activities hidden beneath this glossy surface. The Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, is a legal tool specifically designed to target organizations operating as fronts for criminal behavior. Unlike traditional charges focused on singular crimes, RICO prosecutions seek to demonstrate a pattern of illegal conduct permeating an organization. If the government can prove that Combs orchestrated a network of criminal activity within his business empire, ranging from drug trafficking to violent intimidation, the entire structure could be seized and dismantled. This approach allows prosecutors to tackle systemic corruption rather than piecemeal offenses. Understanding RICO. More than just a law. To fully appreciate the significance of the ongoing trial against Sean Diddy Combs, it is essential to understand the legal framework under which he is being prosecuted. The Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, commonly known as RICO. Enacted in 1970, RICO was initially created to combat the influence of organized crime families that had embedded themselves deeply within legitimate business operations. Unlike traditional criminal statutes, which focus on individual crimes in isolation, RICO targets the entire enterprise behind those crimes. It allows prosecutors to hold leaders accountable for patterns of illegal activity, orchestrated through otherwise lawful organizations. In practical terms, this means that prosecutors don't have to prove every crime separately, but rather demonstrate a persistent and connected pattern of racketeering behavior. This can include a variety of offenses, such as drug trafficking, extortion, bribery, money laundering, and violent acts, all tied together as part of a coordinated scheme. In Diddy's case, federal authorities allege that his sprawling business empire, which includes music labels, fashion brands, liquor lines, and media companies, was not just a collection of profitable ventures, but a front for systemic illegal activity. The glamour and celebrity sheen often associated with the entertainment world, prosecutors argue, were used to mask a darker underbelly involving coercion, intimidation, and violence. The federal government's high conviction rate. When federal prosecutors bring a case, especially one as complex and high-profile as this, they typically do so only when their evidence is overwhelming. Federal conviction rates in criminal cases hover around an exceptionally high 90 to 95%, reflecting the meticulous preparation and high standard of proof required to proceed. This is especially true in RICO cases, where prosecutors must establish a comprehensive pattern of illegal conduct spanning years and multiple individuals. The fact that this trial has moved forward after years of investigation suggests that the government believes its case is rock solid. Prosecutors have likely gathered an extensive trove of documents, witness statements, digital communications, financial records, and other forms of evidence that collectively weave a narrative far beyond hearsay or isolated incidents. They are not merely accusing Diddy of wrongdoing, but asserting that his entire empire was a sophisticated operation designed to facilitate and conceal criminal acts. This heavy evidentiary burden also signals that the government expects to face a vigorous defense, as cases involving celebrities with vast resources tend to be fiercely contested. The trial's length, projected to last 6 to 8 months, reflects the complexity and magnitude of the allegations. Jennifer Lopez's shadow over the case. Though Jennifer Lopez is not formally charged with any crime in this trial, her name has come up repeatedly, raising critical questions about the extent of her involvement. Early on, public perception cast her largely as an innocent bystander or a glamorous partner caught up in a tumultuous relationship. However, emerging reports paint a far more complicated and potentially troubling picture. Multiple accounts allege that Lopez was not only present during key violent incidents, but actively involved in them. For instance, witnesses have claimed that Lopez carried a firearm, often referred to colloquially in the case as Diddy's Pew Pew, into a nightclub on a night that culminated in a shooting. More damningly, she is said to have handed the gun to Combs during a pivotal moment and later disposed of it after the violence erupted. If these allegations hold true, they could legally implicate Lopez as a co-conspirator rather than merely an observer. Lopez's silence and refusal to provide testimony have fueled speculation. Some critics argue that her subsequent marriage to actor Ben Affleck and retreat from public scrutiny do not absolve her of past actions or associations. Instead, they suggest her absence from the spotlight may be a strategic effort to distance herself from potential legal consequences. The question remains, what else does she know? And what has she been protecting by not speaking publicly? The legal significance of Cassie Ventura's testimony. One of the most compelling aspects of the trial is the testimony of Cassie Ventura, a former girlfriend and protege of Combs. Cassie's statements have brought a human face to the prosecution's allegations, revealing the emotional and psychological trauma underpinning what the government describes as a criminal enterprise. Cassie's accounts expose the extent to which Diddy's control over her transcended typical business arrangements. Her contract with Bad Boy Records was not just a music deal, but a form of modern servitude, severely restricting her freedom and subjecting her to coercive demands. She testified to physical abuse, intimidation, and forced compliance in both personal and professional spheres. Cassie described instances of violence and threats that were intended to keep her, and others, compliant and silent. Her testimony also illuminated the psychological control exercised through fear and manipulation. The pressure to maintain a perfect public image while privately enduring abuse underscored a deeply troubling dynamic. The use of power not just for profit, but for domination and control. Cassie's courage in speaking out has been pivotal in challenging the narrative that Diddy's empire was purely a successful entertainment business, instead portraying it as a front for sustained criminal conduct. Coercion, control, and criminal enterprise. At its core, this trial is not about a relationship gone bad. It is a case about coercion, where power and violence were allegedly wielded systematically to force individuals into acts against their will. This includes the manipulation of contracts, intimidation tactics, and orchestrated violence, all designed to maintain control over people and silence opposition. Cassie's experiences highlight how coercion extended into the very contracts that bound her. These agreements forced her to meet conditions that are unimaginable outside a criminal context, ensuring her public compliance even as she privately suffered abuse. The prosecution argues that these mechanisms were part of a broader pattern of criminality embedded within Diddy's business empire. The trial seeks to reveal how such systems of control can operate behind the veneer of legitimate enterprises and how influential figures use their resources to suppress victims and witnesses. It challenges us to reconsider the intersections of fame, power, and crime, showing that behind the glitz of celebrity lies a complex web of exploitation that demands accountability. Conclusion: the ongoing RICO trial against Sean Diddy Combs is one of the most consequential cases of recent times, not only for its high-profile defendants, but for the legal and societal issues it raises. Understanding the RICO Act's scope clarifies why the government's case is far-reaching and why the stakes are so high. Jennifer Lopez's ambiguous role casts a shadow that adds complexity to the proceedings, while Cassie Ventura's testimony humanizes the toll of coercion and abuse within this alleged criminal enterprise. Together, these elements expose a pattern of control and intimidation that challenges the conventional narratives surrounding power and celebrity. As the trial continues, it represents more than just a legal confrontation. It is a crucial moment for justice, accountability, and a call to shine a light on the darker realities lurking beneath the surface of the entertainment industry.